13, sorry, community organisations loan fund, and Phil Clearwater will move.
I'll move those.
The staff recommended second, Tim Scandrett. So
I've got an amendment to flag too.
well, then can we write it into the motion?
It can be indeed. Just so that 6.1, and I'll explain the rationale, be moved subject to confirmation of the financial information in the Cashmere Tennis Club's last application to the Spraden Heathcote Community Board.
Right. Subject to confirmation of the financial information provided
to the Cashmere Tennis Club's
provided
by the Cashmere Tennis Club in their last application to the Spraden Heathcote Community Board.
Yep.
And can I say?
Yes, if you could, and you're happy with that to be included, Tim? Yep, good.
Councillors, the reason for that addition is that we want our decision to be consistent with the community boards, which was just last week, and I just want to ensure that in fact they did receive the same information. I certainly support the recommendations, and you might want to comment on this, Lincoln, but they're clearly a very strong club and will have a strong history of repaying their loans. It's more than in fact the financial information did stack up. I've got no doubt it will, but unless you want to comment on that, Lincoln.
I understand that the discretionary response fund application, Anna Sheen talked to Mike Percy and they made sure that the right information, both of them had consistent information.
Yeah. So we can check that out though. So this would make it subject to. Can I just, in terms of future reports, because I kind of, from reading this report, I would not have known that they'd made an application for any sum of money from the community board. So I think it's useful when we're looking at making a decision on a loan that we actually see the whole picture. And so if I don't know how much their application was to the Spraden Heathcote Community Board and how much the Spraden Heathcote Community Board granted, and whether that makes any difference to the amount of the loan that they were seeking, because apparently this was only very recently that the that the funding request went through to the community board. So it might be useful in future for reports to actually specifically note whether there are other sources of funding coming and whether that makes a difference in terms of the size of the loan that's being requested. Pauline?
Thank you. I support that, Leanne, and also just noting on that when applications come to a community board, they always come with a matrix which provides quite a history of every other organisation they had actually approached for funding, and that's quite valuable information. It shows that they're not relying solely on council. Also gives us a clear picture of where they are. But I just have a question about the fund itself, the loan scheme. So it's got $2 million in there for the 2013-14 financial year, which will obviously end at the end of June this year. So is there very much call on that fund? Is it generally fully allocated? Because that seems to me that if we're only putting out these two to date, we may have a sizable balance left at the end of the financial year.
Generally, it's been fully allocated pre-earthquake, post-earthquake. There's been a lot less call from organisations as they start to understand what their ability to rebuild or develop properties are. So it's been a lot less. In fact, last year we got a fairly significant request come in, but the group decided not to proceed with that, and that would have taken at least half of the facility away. Also, since the quake, we've had those groups who currently have loans have been repaying their loans back, and so that just replenishes the fund as it's a revolving one.
Tim?
As I mentioned upstairs with regards to the Cashmere Tennis Club, it is servicing the entire ward at the moment of Spraden Heathcote, and many tennis clubs have suffered damage. So it's not only its usual catchment, and it's right through from Addington to and the Rickon and Wigram area as well with Westmoreland. So it is servicing a far bigger catchment than it has done in the past. It is also a really important community gathering area, if you like, for those families that are in that catchment area and further afield. So I urge you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy Chen.
Thank you. One question. The paragraph 2.3 and 2.4, is there any criteria or what is the rationale? You know, one, you grant a loan to the Kashmir tennis club for 10-year term, but the Canterbury softball for only the 5-year term. What's the rationale?
When we assess the loans, we obviously take information from the applicant as to their ability to repay, and the term is based on basically the ability to repay. One of the facets of the loan scheme is to support the organisation but also do no harm to the organisation. So therefore we look for terms which allow the groups to, one, comfortably remit their debt servicing, and two, continue their operations, their normal operations.
Review their financial kind of statement. That's most of the bigger factor. Am I right? Okay, thank you.
Ref Manji.
Hi. So the council is acting as a mini bank here to community organisations. Have we looked at actually putting this into the private sector and not having the council involved in it? So, for example, organisations like Kiva and other microfinance type organisations. Is that something that we've looked at here?
We haven't looked at that specifically, but a number of the organisations come to us also seek commercial terms, and I think currently the differential between what a bank might offer a community organisation and what we would offer at this point is about 2 to 2.5% difference in interest rates. There are a number of organisations looking to do loans for community, but they're fairly small loans.
Okay.
But in essence, it's a council decision. So if you want us to have a look at that, we could have a look at that.
I think when we review the grants, this should go into that review at the same time, be part of the overall grant review. A second point, or 2 more questions. When just making the loans, it would be quite good to have a balance sheet as well, because obviously we've got the income statement, but we've no idea what assets they've got on their balance sheet. That would be useful. And also, could we get a list of the total funds over, say, the last 5 years and where they're all tracking, how much we've allocated and how those loans are tracking? Yeah? Thank you.
Right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. Item